citizens in this country. We urge Kenyans to utterly disassociate with any such religious organization, church, or fellowship. What has been experienced is cultic in nature, and we encourage the populace to be vigilant with such. We also implore the security apparatus in our beloved country to do their job and bring every perpetrator or any persons associated with this cult to book. We plead with His Excellency, the President, to appoint a commission of inquiry led by distinguished religious leaders and comprising of members from the known Christian coordinating bodies, namely the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, National Council of Churches of Kenya, NCCK, the Seventh-day Adventist, SDA, the Organization of African Instituted Churches, OAIC, and of course we have the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. Over to you, Bishop.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes. As I read this final page, it's good to clarify that I represent the Deliverance Church International. Overseer Bishop is Mark Kariuki, who is known to all of you. But I serve in the executive board and also in the national executive of the Deliverance Church. This commission should expeditiously, the commission we have recommended should expeditiously investigate and report back what might have gone on and make clear recommendations of how to fully regulate registration and operations of churches and Christian institutions in the country. And I think our General Secretary is part of a team that has been working with the Attorney General for this to be actioned. And it is something that we hope comes quickly. We also urge the investigating agencies to quickly investigate, apprehend, and bring to account all accomplices, including complicit government officials, in these murderous acts. We plead with the prosecution and judiciary while dealing with these individuals to apply strict measures applicable to terrorism, genocide, and the crimes against humanity. In the meantime, we further advise the government to empower the recognized umbrella organizations to streamline self-regulations for common good and order. On our part, as Evangelical Alliance, we have a clear code of conduct for all our members. And we have told we represent over 50,000 congregations. And therefore, on our part, we have a clear code of conduct for all our members, together with others. And our individual churches, beyond what we have, also have constitutions that regulate them. So there's a double accountability from the denomination and also from the umbrella body in coming days. Now, we desire to launch a universal code of conduct for churches, and we are open to converse with all well-meaning body of Christ, everyone who is loyal to Jesus Christ. In the meantime, we further advise government to empower, of course, recognize, I've already read that. Finally, we wish to send a message of heartfelt condolences to all families, relatives, and friends of those innocent Kenyans who have lost their lives to the Mackenzie cult. May God give you comfort. We further urge all Kenyans to be on the watch out of such cults and report them to relevant authorities. And as I conclude also to say, what is a cult? Because we are using this word. A cult is any religious adherence to an individual person that disregards the lordship of Christ, and they are the ones, the loyalty is to them as individuals. And this is what Paul Mackenzie has done, and we are glad that the government is instructing action, and I hope this time it will serve as a deterrent for future or any chaotic movement, which I believe the government will also spotlight. May God bless you. We have signed on behalf of our chairman, Bishop Dr. Oginde, and we believe that you are going to communicate in this statement in its entirety to the whole nation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may have questions, and I'll sit to take the questions.
Yeah.
Yes, Brian.
My name is Brian Mushiri from NTV.
Yes.
Just one question, because now with this whole conversation, we are seeing everyone within the religious community now starting to say that let us now have regulations. So just to reiterate, are we now ready to have those conversations of we be regulated from the top? Does government get to know about our presence? Can we now start to welcome conversations on taxation by the church and what have you? Maybe just a final clarification on that, because even the Conference of Catholic Bishops led by Martin Kimuva also welcomed regulation earlier on this morning.
Allow me to say that one is that churches are regulated. There's no well-meaning church in Kenya that is not regulated, because they are all registered under the Societies Act, which is domiciled at the Attorney General Chambers. And so there's a register of societies. Right now, there's a lady called Maria Goretti who regulates all societies. The only difference is that this Societies Act, under which we operate, is an All Societies Act that brings everybody together and may not be specific in terms of applying specificity for different institutions, because the same law governs football clubs, governs churches, governs chamas and things like that. And so I think it is more saying, can we have a specialized law under which religious institutions covering freedom of religion and belief can be enshrined. And in so doing, then there can be specifics that apply to religious institutions, because they are specific and our roles and our duties are very different. So allow me to just say that churches are regulated. To say that they are not regulated is not true.
That's true.
But however, there are gaps in the law, and perhaps it's those gaps in the law that we need to fix. And for us as the Evangelical Alliance, what we think that needs to be fixed is the balance between the freedom of worship that is enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya, which sometimes looks like it's absolute, but it's not absolute, by a law that enables us to be able to look at what does it mean to have freedom of worship and belief in this country. Because then anybody can come up. And today we are talking about Jesus of Tongareni. And it's possible that you will hear things coming up from that side. Religious institutions like ourselves have no mandate to stop anybody from worshiping in the name that they wish to worship. But also we have no mandate if people become criminal and begin to commit crimes against humanity, do money laundering. In that case, then let the laws applicable in this country be applied.
Right.
The penal code is available. There's the anti-terrorism law. There are many laws that are applicable to any crime in this country. And so if there's any religious leader who is involved in a criminal act, like now this Paul Mackenzie, let the law be applied. We don't need an extra law to deal with this gentleman. The law that is there is adequate. Then your second question about taxation. Churches pay tax. All these people here pay tax. Yes. People pay taxes, and institutions in their investments, some of them pay taxes according to applicable laws, and so there's no lacuna in law in terms of taxation in this country. Recently, there was a ruling in court that says all those religious institutions registered as societies should be exempt from income tax, so that then if tithes and offerings are given in this church, which duly are used for purposes of doing good. I mean, hospitals, schools, feeding the hungry. It will end up being double taxation, especially for those of us who have produced those gifts. And there's a Public Benefits Act that we just hope that can be implemented. So we don't need an extra law. There's a Public Benefits Act that is out there that needs to be implemented. I think that's what I would say to you, Brian. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
And I think it's good to add that the people who bring what they bring to church, whether it's tithes or offerings, they have already paid their taxes. Yeah. So if you tax what they have brought to church, that's double taxation.
That's what's covered in the Public Benefits Act. It's covered in the public. Yes.
Depends from OTV. I would like to know from your point, from your end, about there was a document. I was speaking to the Bishop of Sitam, who was saying churches, some of the churches agreed to come up with a document that will be sent to the president so that churches are regulated just to avoid such issues.
I'll talk to it.
Yes. Yeah. So some of the independent churches did not want to be part of that document. What would you say about that? Because even if the president says we are going to regulate this, we're going to form this commission of inquiry, but they do not want to do it.
I think in Kenya, the constitution allows public participation. And so whatever law or regulation that comes up must go through the procedures of public participation so that it's accepted widely. But having said that, in 2016, the Attorney General came up with regulations. And when we discussed and looked at those regulations, we agreed with the Attorney General that we are going to set up a self-regulation mechanism. Out of that mechanism, two things have happened. One, a bill on religious rights and freedoms has been published, and we published it as Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, and gave that document to the Attorney General. That document has been lying there. It has not been actualized and been pushed forward so that we remove religious institutions from Societies Act and be regulated universally in a different law. Number two, churches, through their own volition, the National Council of Churches of Kenya, the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, and some few members from KCCB, have come up with a code of conduct supported by Hesabika.
Yes.
This code of conduct is under discussion. We have done validation across the country, and we will be seeking to launch it across the country. The only thing is that the applicability of it is volitional.
Right.
We cannot force anybody to sign on and say, I'm coming on, because people have their freedoms to associate. And the other day you saw the court saying people can freely associate, and even the ones that are very despicable, the Supreme Court said they are free to associate. So you cannot stop others to associate with another law or requirement, but volitionally ask them to sign on this code of conduct. It is fully done. What it awaits is launching, and perhaps we may launch it in another few days from now. We'll be calling you for a launch of a code of conduct that for those churches that will like to sign on, they will sign on. But when they become members of EAK or National Council of Churches of Kenya, or sign to become registered by the Attorney General, their constitution is a regulation that they abide by.
Right.
Number two, they agree to abide by the code of conduct for the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. All these members here, this is Redeemed Gospel Church, this is Deliverance Church, this is Joy Miracle Church. All these churches here have signed to the code of conduct for the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya.
Right.
So these ones here are protected, but because of freedom of worship, there are many out there, multiple of them out there, that we have to wait for them to say we are willing to be a part of a community. Then we can be able to say we can look after them and give them a code of conduct. Otherwise, it remains with the Attorney General and the police and those that govern the country.
So what happens if maybe a member agree to a sign of conduct of EAK, for example, but goes out of and does what Mackenzie is doing?
We have a disciplinary mechanism, and it will not get there. It can't get there. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It's not possible for a member of EAK to get where Mackenzie has gotten. It will be highlighted immediately. It will be clear. People will know that something wrong has happened.
Yeah.
We have a peer mechanism that can't allow it.
that one is nowhere near EAK.
It can't. It cannot.
It's a cult.
It cannot. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciated.
Okay.
Asante sana.
Asante. Asanteni sana.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Go.
Asante.